Praising Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for this opportunity for us to continue in our lesson in the book of Nurul Idah by Sheikh Hassan Asharambulali in the Fiqh of Al-Imam Abu Hanifa. And in our last lesson, we were speaking about the things that does not invalidate ablution. So before this, we were speaking about the things that invalidate ablution and the things that does not invalidate ablution. So we have covered all of it, and today inshallah ta'ala is what we will see in the book that the text that we are in. The author mentioned Babu Ma Yujibul Irtisal. This is a chapter that speaks about the things that makes bathing the obligatory bath compulsory. Bathing the obligatory bath wajib. So what are the things that makes a person obligatory upon him to perform the obligatory bath? So this is the chapter that the author speaks about after he mentioned about the things that invalidate ablution. So there is a difference between taking ablution and bathing the obligatory bath. So in the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned, وَإِن كُنْتُمْ جُنُوبًا فَاتَّهَرُوا. If you are in a state of janaba, meaning a major ritual impurity, then it is compulsory upon you to purify yourself by bathing. Whereas when it comes to wudu, it is a lighter form of impurity. We say it is a minor impurity, that if a person does not have any ablution, then it is compulsory upon him to take ablution, to perform any prayers, and to touch the Quran, and so forth, so on and so forth. So now when we will go on to what the author mentioned, he said, يُفْتَرَدُ الْغُسْلُ بِوَاحِدٍ مِنْ سَبْعَةِ أَشْيَاء. So he said that it is compulsory upon a person to perform the obligatory bath in one out of 7 things. Meaning altogether we have 7 situations where bathing is compulsory. Any of these situations makes bathing the obligatory bath wajib. Number 1, he said, خُرُوجُ الْمَنِي إِلَى ظَاهِرِ الْجَسَدِ. When the sperm, when it comes out from the body to the outer the outer part of the body. When there is sperm present outside a body, when it comes out from the inside of the body. Now this makes bathing the obligatory bath wajib, but there is a condition, and he mentioned in the next sentence, idan fasala an makarihi bishahwatin. The condition for us to say that bathing is compulsory whenever sperm comes out from the body is when the sperm comes out as a result of shahwa. As a result of shahwa. So for example, a person is sexually aroused. So sometimes a person is sexually aroused, but the sperm does not come out. But he is aroused. There is arousal. There is sexual arousal. So as long as sperm does not come out from his body, bathing is not compulsory. So when does bathing becomes compulsory? When the sperm comes out in a situation where he is sexually aroused, then only we say bathing becomes compulsory now. So if the sperm comes out as a result of sexual arousal, then bathing becomes compulsory. But if sperm comes out not due to sexual arousal, so for example a person, he is not sexually aroused and so on, but then he saw there is sperm that comes out from his body, for example, and he saw any sperm and his clothes. So in this situation, bathing is not compulsory. So this is a major point of difference between the Hanafi madhab and the Shafi'i madhab. In the Shafi'i madhab, we do not differentiate whether the sperm comes out of sexual arousal or non-sexual arousal. As long as we saw sperm, it is compulsory for a person to bathe. But in the Hanafi madhab, the condition is that it must be due to sexual arousal. Then only bathing becomes any compulsory. If the sperm comes out without any sexual any arousal, then it is not compulsory for him to perform the obligatory bath. But of course, in the Hanafi and madhab, the scholars encourage bathing, even though it does not make bathing any obligatory, but because other madhab mentioned that it is compulsory to bathe, and we say this is mura'atul li khilaf, to go out of all differences amongst the ulama, it is encouraged for a person to perform the bathing. But is it compulsory upon him to perform the bathing? No, it is not any compulsory for him to perform bathing. This is the first condition. The first condition is said that there must be shahwa. Then only bathing becomes compulsory. Number two, min ghayri jima'. It must not any be jima'. If it is other than jima', meaning if a person performs sexual intercourse, jima' here meaning sexual intercourse. If a person performs any sexual intercourse, then bathing becomes compulsory upon him. If the ejaculation of sperm is a result of sexual intercourse, this we say it is compulsory upon him to perform the obligatory bath. But if other than sexual intercourse, and it is not out of shahwa, then bathing is not compulsory. So this is point number one. Number two, watawari hashafa aw qadriha min maqtu'iha fi ahadi sabilai adamiyin hayyin. If the what we say, the head of the penis, if the head of the penis enters into one of the private parts, if the head of the penis enters into one of the two private parts, either the vagina or the anus, the minimum length is the head of the penis. The head of the penis, if it enters into one of the two private parts, ahad sabilai adami, the private parts of the human beings, not animals, hayyin, in the state where he or she is alive, then this makes bathing becomes obligatory. If a person insert the head of the penis either into a vagina or into an anus, whether it is a man or a woman, what is important it must be a human being, then this makes bathing obligatory. So other than human beings, if a person does it into other than human beings, it does not make bathing obligatory, but certainly it is a sinful thing. It is sinful for a person to have sexual intercourse with animals. But here the author is speaking about as to whether bathing becomes compulsory or not. He's not speaking about the ruling of the intercourse, but he is speaking about whether it makes bathing obligatory or not, because this is a chapter in Tahara. So how does we understand that sexual intercourse make bathing obligatory? So the minimum size is the size of the tip of the penis, the top of the penis. So if that enters into the private parts, then only bathing becomes compulsory. So it does not becomes compulsory if it is done to animals or to people who have died. So that is why he mentioned the condition is adamiyin hay. If it is done to a human being, adami here meaning human being, hay in the state of life, not in the state of death. So this makes bathing obligatory. If the penis is inserted, but not to the extent that covers the whole top of the penis, then bathing is not compulsory. So this is point number two. Number three, you say wa inzalul maniyi bi wat'i maitatin aw bahimatin. Number three, if the sperm is ejaculated, there is an ejaculation of sperm when a person has sexual intercourse with a dead person, maita, with a dead person, and there is ejaculation, then bathing becomes shiran waqtan naum. Yani if a person, yani, for example, before, yani, when he woke up, yani, after, yani, his sleep, and he found out that there is wetness. There is any wetness in his clothes. When does he realize this? After, yani, he woke up, yani, from his sleep. So, how do we ascertain whether this wetness is considered to be sperm or madhi? Madhi, yani, is a liquid that comes out when a person, yani, becomes sexually, yani, aroused. So we have, yani, to look, yani, at the situation, yani, before, yani, he sleeps. So the author, yani, mentioned, in order, yani, for us, yani, to ascertain whether the wetness, yani, is from sperm or not any from sperm. So we look, yani, at the situation, yani, before, any a person sleeps. So he said that Idah lam yakun zakaruhu muntashiran waqtan naum. Yani, if a person finds, yani, himself not any in a state where, yani, his penis is in a state, any of hardness when he is, any, performing, any, his sleep, then we say that the wetness, any, is from sperm. But, yani, if his penis in a state anywhere he is aroused, and when he is, any, in a state of sleeping, then we say this is not any sperm, but this is a possibility, any, of madhi. There is a possibility of madhi, because the erection, any, of the penis usually, any, will cause the madhi, any, to come out. So this is, any, the situation. If, any, he finds that there is no erection while, any, he is sleeping or before, any, he sleeps, then the wetness, any, is considered, any, to be, any, a sperm. So this is where the author, any, mentioned وَوُجُودُ مَاءٍ رَقِيقٍ بَعْدَ النَّوْمِ إِذَا لَمْ يَكُنْ ذَكَرُهُ مُنْتَشِرًا وَقْتَ النَّوْمِ. Yani, if a person finds, any, his penis, any, not, any, in a state of erection at the time, any, of sleeping. Now, وَلَوْ حَصَلَتِ الْأَشْيَاءُ الْمَذْكُورَةُ قَبْلَ الْإِسْلَامِ فِي الْأَصَحِ. So even though if a person enters into the fold of Islam, now, any, we say it is compulsory upon him and her to perform the obligatory bath if all of these things, any, happen before conversion. Yani, before conversion, there is ejaculation, there is what you call it, this sexual, any, intercourse, any, for example, woman, any, has gone through menstruation cycles, postnatal bleedings. All these things will be the reason for him and for her to bathe, any, the obligatory bath, and if she enters, any, into the fold of Islam. So entering, any, into the fold, any, of Islam does not, yani, make all the things, any, that is done, any, before, any, Islam to be in a state, any, of forgiven, of purity, but it is compulsory, any, upon them to perform the obligatory bath because of all the things, any, that happened before, any, Islam. Number 7, وَيُفْتَرَضُ تَرْسِيلُ الْمَيِّتِ كِفَايَةً. Number 7, any, is pertaining to bathing the deceased. Yani, a person, any, passed away, this is fardu kifayah. As what the author, any, mentioned, kifayatan. It means it is a communal obligation that we have, any, to perform bathing, any, for the deceased. If the deceased, any, passed away in a community, there must be at least one person, any, who perform this obligation. So these are the 7 things, any, the author, any, mentioned, which is compulsory upon any person, yani, to bathe, any, the obligatory bath when it happens. One, any, of the 7, as what, any, he mentioned. And then, any, he goes on, yani, to speak, any, about the things that will not make bathing compulsory. So after he spoke, any, about the things that makes bathing compulsory, he speaks, any, about the things that normally people thought it will make bathing compulsory, but in reality it does not, any, make bathing compulsory. And this is the way of the author, Sheikh Hassan Sharan Bulali. And we find that when he speaks, any, about ablution, any, also the same. When he speaks, any, about the things that nullify ablution, then, any, he mentioned the things that does not nullify ablution, because there are people, any, who have some misunderstanding, and some people, any, thought that this particular thing will nullify ablution, but in reality does not nullify ablution. This particular thing makes bathing compulsory, but in reality does not make bathing compulsory. So now, yani, he mentioned the things, any, that does not, any, make any bathing compulsory. So he mentioned ashratu ashya. Faslun fima la yujibul irtisal. This is a chapter, yani, of the things that does not make bathing compulsory. Ashratu ashya la yurtasalu minha. There are 10 things that bathing is not any compulsory. Bathing is not any compulsory when a person does any of these 10 things. Number 1, maziyun. Yani this is colorless liquid that is sticky when it comes out from the penis, usually after sexual arousal. It does not make bathing compulsory, but it is considered to be a filth. It is considered to be a filth. Likewise, wadi. Wadiyun or wadi. This is a whitish liquid that comes out from the body due to certain sicknesses. And when a person in a state of exhaustion and heat, when a person carries something that is heavy, where the body is under any pressure, so this whitish liquid usually it comes out when urinating. It comes out when urinating. So this is wadi. This does not make bathing compulsory. Number 3, he mentioned wa ihtilamun bila balalin. A person, for example, he has ihtilam. What is the meaning of ihtilam? Ihtilam meaning a person in his dream he is performing a sexual intercourse, with a woman, for example. A woman performing with a man. So this is ihtilam, in a dream. So bila balal, there is no wetness. Meaning when he wake up from the dream, he saw in the dream that he was having a sexual intercourse with a woman. But then when he woke up there is no balal, there is no wetness. Is it compulsory upon him to bathe the obligatory bath? No, it is not compulsory upon him to bathe the obligatory bath. Why? Because there is no traces of the sperm. Naam. Wal mar'atu fihi karajuli. So likewise, man and woman is the same. Man has ihtilam, woman also has ihtilam. Man has sperm, woman also has sperm. So in order for us to ascertain whether bathing is compulsory for men, if there is wetness, for woman also wetness. Fi zahir riwayah, these are the set in your books in Hanafi and madhab that speaks about the rulings of fiqh. So the author mentioned next is wa wiladatun min ghairi ru'yati damin ba'daha fi sahih. Wilada, a person, the woman delivers a child, and there is no traces of blood, no traces of nifas. In the Hanafi madhab, it is not compulsory, although there are differences in the madhab. This is the prevailing judgment. This is the prevailing judgment, as what is mentioned by the same author in Maraq al-Falah. This is the opinion of Al-Imam Muhammad bin Hassan al-Shaybani and Al-Imam Abu Yusuf, that if there is no postnatal bleeding, then it is not compulsory upon her to bathe the obligatory bath based on the sound opinion. But Al-Imam Abu Hanifa differs. Al-Imam Abu Hanifa mentioned it is compulsory. Ihtiyatan, to play safe. It is compulsory upon her to bathe the obligatory bath, because Al-Imam Abu Hanifa mentioned usually there will be bleeding. Usually there will be bleeding even a bit. So to play safe, it is compulsory upon her to bathe the obligatory bath. So all these opinions are based on that if there is postnatal bleeding, and this is also one of the main differences between the Hanafi madhab and the Shafi madhab. Shafi madhab, we do not differentiate. Shafi madhab, we say that delivering a child itself is one of the prerequisites of saying that obligatory bath is compulsory, because the child is made up of sperm, the sperm from the man and the woman. So even though there is no blood, obligatory bath is still wajib upon him. But in the Hanafi madhab, they mention that if there is no postnatal bleeding, there is no obligatory bath. Wallahu alam bis-sawab. We will stop here for today, inshallah, and we will continue in the next lesson. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Salatu wassalamu ala Sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallim. Rabbana taqabbal du'ana innaka anta sami'ul alim. Wa tub alayna innaka anta tawwabur rahim. Wakhtim bis salihati a'malana wa ajrina Allah ya karim. Fadli subhana rabbika bil izzati amma yasifun. Salamun ala al-mursalin walhamdulillahi rabbil alamin.